On the 30th of August 2023, Gabon woke up to see this on their television screens.
Au nom du peuple gabonais et garant de la protection des institutions, avons décidé de défendre la paix en mettant fin au régime en place. À cet effet, les élections générales du 26 août 2023 ainsi que les résultats tronqués sont annulés.
In most parts of the world, people would greet such news with apprehension and uncertainty. But in Gabon,
notre pays est libre. Vive la liberté du Gabon. Vive à tous ceux qui ont contribué.
Interestingly, we've seen Nigerians have similar reactions to coups in their country.
Document shared by Niger's defense chief said that the troops being put on maximum alert.
One key feature of recent coups in Africa is the amount of public support they receive. But is the hope and jubilation misplaced? What has history taught us about coups in Africa? And do they ever lead to any good? Well, let's find out. The last 3 years has seen a sharp increase in the frequency of coups in Africa. There have been at least 13 coup attempts, with these 7 countries seeing military takeovers. And as usual, these coups have been caused mostly by the same factors: an under-delivering of bad government, weak public institutions, and security issues. The result is often the military sweeping in to save the day while singing the nationalistic songs only they can. On the surface, it makes sense, right? Because who can say they love a country more than those who willingly lay down their lives to die for it? And this was the exact rhetoric used in Africa's first coup in 1952. The coup, led by General Abdel Nasser of the Free Officers Movement, had 4 main issues. 1, there was dissatisfaction with King Farouk's rule. 2, military defeat in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. 3, social and economic inequality. And 4, nationalism and pan-Arabism. According to the Free Officers, they didn't have plans to come into power. They just wanted to transition Egypt into a legal parliamentary system of government. However, within the next 2 years, Abdel Nasser gradually destroyed all of Egypt's political and democratic institutions and turned the state into a military dictatorship. Soon, there were no more political parties. The country's parliament was dissolved. Striking workers were literally executed. Political activists were arrested and tortured, and the military opened fire on student demonstrators. All this within a space of 2 years. Nasser, whom the Egyptians once embraced, set in a 57-year era of one-party dictatorships that was continued by Anwar Sadat and Hosni Mubarak until the Arab Spring in 2011. Numerous coup plotters have followed Nasser's footprints since then. From the Nigerian coup plotters in 1966 to Samuel Doe of Liberia in 1980 to Yoweri Museveni of Uganda in 1986 to, you just get the point. It's hard to tell the true intentions of every coup plotter, but I'm certain there is some level of truth in the nationalistic rhetoric they always spit out. But in the words of Lord Acton, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Accountability is one of democracy's greatest assets, something that dictatorships sorely lacks. As a result, there is no one to keep them in check when things begin to spiral out of control.
Volleys of rubber bullets and tear gas fired at protesters. Buildings and cars set on fire.
One other advantage of democracies and even monarchies is legitimacy. Because whether you like a leader or not, you can at least attest to the fact that they have the right to sit on the throne. But this isn't the case of those who seize power through coups. It's nearly impossible to have the support of everyone in the military when you seize power. So therefore, your head has to always be on the swivel. Nigeria's first military head of state, Agui Ironsi, learned this the hard way. After taking power in January 1966, he was assassinated just 6 months later by mutinous Northern Nigeria troops in a July counter-coup. Their major motivation was taking Ironsi out for what they considered as a Igbo coup, which was aimed at taking power away from the north. Probably learning from Ironsi, Samuel Doe spent his first few months in power everyone he deemed a political enemy. And you see, those seizure of power was initially seen as a win for ethnic Liberians, who had dominated the minority American Liberians for 133 years. But he wasn't seen as a hero for too long because his actions led Liberia into a series of bloody civil wars. Doe's most defiant action is publicly declaring before the 1985 election that he would not hand over power even if he lost. He said even if he did, he would lead another coup in less than 2 weeks. However, he didn't want to go through all that stress and instead eliminated over 50 of his political opponents and rigged the elections to barely get 51% of the votes. In short, coups encourage counter coups, and when you're constantly looking over your shoulder, you have no time to actually lead the people you claim you wanted to lead in the first place. One country that people constantly cite as an example of a good coup is J.J. Rawlings of Ghana. Ghana in the 70s was a country filled with so much corruption. And after experiencing 4 coups in 22 years of independence, Rawlings and his Free Africa movement initiated a failed coup on May 15, 1979. Rawlings and his 5 accomplices were sentenced to death, but while awaiting execution, something drastic happened. His impassionate speech on Ghana's social and political state has won him over to the people. While in his cell, 3 weeks after, a group of soldiers broke him out and they led another coup, which was successful this time, and Rawlings led for less than 4 months, during which he conducted a house cleaning where he executed over 300 Ghanaians, including 3 former head of states. Rawlings soon handed over power to civilian President Hila Liman after he won the 1979 elections. However, in just 2 years, Rawlings was leading another coup that had him in power from 1981 to 1993. His reason for the third coup was that the civilian rule was too weak and was causing Ghana's economy to fail. However, as soon as he learned the will to rule is entirely different from the ability to. In his first year and a half governing Ghana, Rawlings implemented strict price controls and pushed state control out of several enterprises. Amongst others, these policies hit Ghana hard. It was only after creating the Economic Recovery Program to reverse these policies that Ghana started to thrive. And you see, Rawlings' willingness to implement these policies make him an exception. Most dictators are more concerned with building a cult following that see them as flawless. And then even when good advice comes, they really do not know who to trust. And it's quite telling that many of the things that Rawlings eventually executed that improved their economy were things that everyday Ghanaians on the streets were literally crying about.
When people ask me, are you for the coup or against the coup, I mostly respond, I'm 100% supporting the coup. And in real, on the field, I don't know if it pays, but like, it's just a try.
And I know it's easy to analyze and be rational about the drawback of coups from far away, but for people in these countries that have been held back by corrupt civilian and military governments, any change is good change. And I guess that's one thing about democracy too, that they hope that no matter how bad a president messes up, in a few years someone else will come and maybe do something different. So while it's okay to celebrate change for now, I honestly think military governments are not the answer. And the military leaders' willingness to transfer power, I would say, is a story for another day. If you watched this far, let us know in the comments what you think about the recent coups in Africa. We haven't touched that in this video since we're preparing an entirely different video for that, but we'd still like to hear your thoughts. And also please leave a like and subscribe and maybe turn on the notification bell so you're notified whenever we post a video. Thank you.